First of all, I should thank you really for your willingness to appear and testify before the Commission. We understand that you have to bend over backwards to accommodate us because you have a medical appointment for later today. So thank you for taking the time to appear before the Commission. Unfortunately, we haven't met before, and I haven't spoken to you before your appearance before the Commission today. So I could not inform you of certain ground rules. But first of all, we would ask you to make an affirmation to speak the truth. And as we proceed through your testimony, which I would lead through questioning, we would want you to listen carefully to the questions, allow for 3 seconds or a brief pause between our statements so that our speeches would not overlap. And if you do not understand the question, ask me to repeat it. And make sure you speak into the microphone so that we can hear what you have to say. Understood?
Yes, I do.
And do kindly speak up, please, so that we can hear what you say.
Yes, I do.
Thank you. And kindly repeat after me.
Okay.
I State your name. Say
I,
I. State your name.
I, Suleiman Makalo,
Hereby affirm
hereby affirm
that I will speak the truth,
that I will speak the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
Thank you very much, Mr. Makalo. What are your full names?
My name is Suleiman Makalo.
Kindly give us a brief summary of your educational background.
Went to school in Kerpate, called the village, that's in the central Dibu district, from 1986-92. I then briefly went to ICE High School for a couple of months, I think 3 months, and then to Muslim Senior Secondary School until 1998, when I graduated with WAG, WASC or WAG they call it. I briefly did, a few journalism courses, at the UNESCO program. Then when I traveled to the United States, I, did my bachelor's in communications, and then another bachelor's in African history, and I am doing my master's program in conflict resolution and mediation.
Thank you
which
very
I
much.
should be graduating in a couple of months.
Wonderful. Best of luck in your pursuit of higher education. And what is your date of birth, if I may ask?
I was born on July 26, 1978.
Where were you born?
I was born in a village called Keriran in the lower Badibu district, in the North Bank division. I think now it's called the North Bank region.
Where did you start your journalism career?
I started with the Independent until it closed down.
Kindly tell us when you joined the Independent.
I joined the Independent shortly after it hit the street. I think 2 weeks after it started publication, something like that. I can't remember the exact date.
Do you remember the year in which it started operations?
It was in July 1999. I can't remember the exact date that I went there, but it was in July 1999.
And what position did you hold at the Independent when you joined in 1999?
I started as a freelance reporter.
Can you tell us about the organizational structure of the management of the Independent when you joined soon after it started in July 1999?
Well, the Independent was owned by two people, Baba Gali Jallo and Alaji Yoro Jallo. Baba Gali Jallo was the editor-in-chief, and Alaji Yoro Jallo was the managing editor.
And they were also the owners of this paper. Is that what you suggested?
Yes.
Can you recall who are the other staff members of the Independent at the time you joined?
So when I joined, it was Baba Gale Jallo, Alaji Yoro Jallo, my former classmate, NB Dafe. In the computer room, you have, I think, the lead, what's it called again? Aina Sherry, I think it's the name, Aina Sherry. Then you have Yamunda Fai, Ole Matumani, and Alimatu Jallo. Alimatu is now married to Baba Gali Jallo. I think these were the people I can fully remember who were the staff.
The Independent, do you recall what philosophy guided its operations as a newspaper during that time?
But when the Independent came out on July 5th, 1999, they had like the first publication, they have a huge, headline, "We are not at war." So, their view was that they are not waging war against any person or institution. And I remember the first editorial, they indicated that, they did not embark on this, on the adventure to start a fight, with any person, and that they have no grudge or hidden agenda against anybody. Like any patriotic Gambian, their mission was clear and simple, like advancing, the cause of our country. So their editorial policy was to report the truth without fear or favor, affection or ill will, within the context of our collective national aspiration. So basically, that was it.
That was the declaration that they made in their maiden publication.
Editorial, yes.
Yes, but was this position shared by the government at the time?
Not at all. Not at all. Actually, I think, if I can recall, I haven't joined yet, at the time, but like 4 days, I think, after the Independent hit the market, they suffered their first arrest. So obviously, the government didn't share that declaration.
Can you tell us about that arrest? Who was involved?
It was NB Duffy. I think, if I can remember, the immigration officials were, embarked on a raid on differently able people, that were begging in the streets. And I remember NB Duffy, I told you he was my classmate, so we had like good rapport. Went to the Bundung police station to seek, clarification as to why, the differently able people were arrested. In the course of that, he was arrested.
NB Duffy, do you recall his full name?
It's Lamin NB Duffy.
Thank you for that. And he was arrested, you said, because he was asking questions about the arrest of the differently abled persons.
Yes.
And what was the duration of his detention at Bundung police station?
He was briefly detained. I think 3 to 4 hours, not that long,
And was he given a reason for his arrest?
No.
Do you know whether anything else happened to him other than the fact that he was arrested?
Not that I can recall, during that arrest.
Apart from the fact of his arrest and the fact that he had to explain, excuse me, let me rephrase that question. Apart from the fact of his arrest, did anything else happen to him?
Well, NB suffered series of arrests. Not only NB, independent staff suffered series of arrests. But from that arrest, no, not anything that I can recall.
What is the perception, or what was the perception of the Independent at the time regarding Lamin's arrest? Did they think it was lawful arrest, or did they think it was something else?
Well, it was definitely not a lawful arrest because he hasn't committed any crime. He just he's just a young reporter who went to the police to seek clarifications, and then unfortunately he suffered for it. But I mean, like that arrest, marks the beginning of a carefully, you know, orchestrated program of harassment and victimization of the independent. So I mean, NB's arrest was the beginning, but of a carefully, orchestrated, program of harassment towards the independent.
Let's get into the details of that. What you call a carefully orchestrated program of harassment of the independent. What happened soon after Lamin's arrest? Could you tell us, please?
Well, yes, like I think 2 weeks after Lamin's arrest, the independent received an order from the Justice Department. I mean, Department of Justice, to cease publication. I mean, they said the paper hasn't has failed to register with the Commission of Income Tax, which of course is not true because the managing editor was able to produce, those papers. So it's, I mean, that tells you that somebody somewhere is pulling strings to silence the paper at that maiden period.
You suggested in your statement that the reason advanced for such an order was that the paper failed to register its business name with the Commissioner for Income Tax. Was that the reason?
Yes.
And you also suggested that the management of the paper went to the income tax office to regularize that situation by tendering payment of the fees, and that was rejected.
Yes.
That's the situation. The payment was rejected. Could you tell us why you think it was rejected?
I mean, the reasons is obviously clear. They probably get an order from, like they call it, quote unquote, above. Not to receive it. So it was definitely, like I said, somebody somewhere was pulling the strings to change the paper at that maiden age. So the only reason they refused, the paper is not registered, if the paper is not.
I think we have lost a bit of what you said. Could you repeat that, please? You think that the paper?
What I was saying is that if the paper did not regularize, its business name, legally it's not supposed to operate. So the fact that they refuse those payments, it's like telling them they're not going to operate. That's what I meant.
I understand what you said, but you can also understand that journalism should be practiced within a particular legal framework. Do you agree?
Can you repeat that, please?
I say the trade of journalism should be practiced within a particular regulated legal framework. There has to be laws which govern what is done and how it is to be done, correct?
Yes.
And your view is that, or the environment was that, there has to be a registration of the business name.
Well, I mean, it's a business, and then the journalism part it's different from it.
I'm talking about the business.
Of course, we all know legally.
I'm referring to the business.
Yes.
So
Yes, it
a business
has to
name
be
ought to
regular.
have been registered, correct?
Yeah,
And that was not done.
that's what they said. Yes, it wasn't done.
But was it true that the business name was not registered?
Well, I wasn't, privy to because that I was not part of the management, but the I know the managing editor, you know, tried to regularize it, but they refused payment. That was clear to me.
Okay. So your view, therefore, is that the refusal of government at the time to accept regularization of that error was intended to prevent the paper from continuing its operations.
That was our belief.
And you thought at the time that that was wrong.
Yes,
And in your book, that was part of the government's strategy of harassing the newspaper and the personnel working there.
well, it is. I mean, because the fact that they refused the payment, it's a very clear signal. If a business doesn't regularize, doesn't want to do so, you let the person do so. But the fact that they refused the payment was a signal that you know they don't want the business to operate.
But was payment subsequently accepted?
Yes,
And was the business later regularized?
yes.
And what happened after that, after the regularization? All the problems are now gone. What happened after that?
Actually, probably the beginning of the problems, because that that happened. No, actually, before even like it was, when it's accepted on July 30th, I can July 30th, the NIA raided the offices, the paper. So and arrested. I wasn't at the office then, but Lamin NB Dafe was there. Um, um, Alimatu Jara was there. Um, Yamunda Fai was there, and Olimatu. 4 people were arrested when the NIA raided the paper. That was July 31st. So the independent resuming publication was beginning um, of the paper's problem.
Okay. Let's try to get this clear. At what stage did the regularization occur? Did it occur before the raid on 30 July, or did it occur subsequently?
Um, so the managing editor wanted to pay, went to pay it. The payment was rejected. No, the raid happened before the regularization.
Okay. So is this the case? In spite of the order to stop operations, the independent continued to operate. Is that the case?
Yes, yes,
And that would have been unlawful, wouldn't it?
yes,
So the raid on the independent at that time was to implement the order of cessation of operations that was handed down to them, which they were deliberately flouting.
yes, so to say, yes.
So in your book, would you consider that raid as harassment or legitimate law enforcement?
Well, it is harassment because, I mean, the payment was rejected on July the 27th, and the paper was raided on July 30th. So obviously they have a motive. If not, the payment would have been accepted on the day it was made.
But you would still
So
accept
it was
that. Are you done? Would you accept?
It was definitely harassment.
Okay, in your book it is harassment. We would not argue over the point. I'll just simply leave it and move on. The commission would make its own assessment as to whether this was lawful law enforcement or was it harassment. Because you also have to understand that newspapers, like every other business, would have to operate under a particular legal framework, and that regardless of the importance of what one does, one has to also operate within the framework of the law and not just deliberately foul the law, I mean, because you just do not accept a decision that has been made. But that is for some other time. Let's move on. As part of that raid, did anything happen to the senior officers of the Independent?
Yes. A day or two later, on Alajiro were also arrested.
And what happened during that arrest?
Well, they were picked up from the office, so and then taken to the NIA for questioning. Well, they spent the night. They were questioned the next day.
And just a day before that, on 2 days before that, 30 July, the staff of the Independent, Lamin Dafe, Ali Matujara, Ole Matujmane, and Yamundao Fai were arrested. Do you know what happened to them during that arrest?
So I mean, the ladies were released hours later. I think 3-4 hours later, but Dafe was kept in custody.
And for how long was he kept in custody?
I can't remember for how long. The arrest of Baba Gale and met, he was still in detention when Baba and Alaji Yoro were arrested.
Baba and Alaji Yoro were arrested 2 days later, on the 1st
yes,
of
on
August.
On the 1st of August, yes.
Was he still there when Baba was released or not?
They were released together. So they were released on the 2nd. So NB spent like 3-4 days in detention.
Good. Do you know whether during that period of detention anything significant happened to them?
Not that I can recall. I mean, it's been a long time.
Were any orders given to them?
Oh yeah, I mean, let me think. I think.
Was anything said to them regarding the publication or the continued publication of the paper?
Well, I can't fully recall, but I think they were just asked to cease. They were told that they were arrested and detained because they don't have the legally required documents to create the paper. But unfortunately for them, the editors were able to produce those papers. I think that's what led to their release, actually, the next day.
But
but they were ordered.
Let me try to jog your memory here. Let me try to jog your memory here. According to your statement, you indicated that They were asked to report on Tuesday and Wednesday when they were eventually released and asked to desist from publishing the Independent until they cleared their business name registration issue. Do you recall that?
Yeah, that's correct.
And you went on to say that after waiting for 3 weeks, the Independent was finally given clearance to proceed with registering its business name with the Commissioner for Income Tax and thus resume publication on August 20. Staff members continued to fear, however, that the harassment might resume. Does that represent
That's
what
correct.
you said? So it was only after
That's
3
correct.
weeks that they were able to regularize the situation.
That's correct.
But during that hiatus, during that 3 weeks period, did the Independent continue to publish, or it just desisted from publishing and waited until the situation's been regularized?
Well, it waited until the situation was regular.
And then did anything else happen to the paper for the rest of that year, 1999?
Yes, I can't fully remember. I think December that Baba Gale and Baba Gale, Alaji Yoro, and Lamin NB Dafe were arrested. And if I can remember, they reported that Jammeh was got married to some lady in Sintate village, I think. So they were arrested because of that story. But the story, like, they didn't specifically say that Jammeh got married. They just asked a question. A new wife for Jammeh, with a question mark. Yes. They were arrested because of that.
Was the information conveyed in the paper true, or was it just a question that was thrown to the public?
Well, in the field of prison, obviously we always try to write. Be sure of writing before we put pen on paper. But under those circumstances, I believe they were clarified the information that they got, and they weren't able to. So that's why they put it in a question. Asking just for people to relevant authorities or whoever was concerned to address the issue. So they were not saying Jammeh got married to a lady. They were asking a question.
And in your book, you believe that it was unfair that they were arrested for that article?
Well, I know for sure they, very information. I was there. They did everything. They tried to get information from almost everybody that is concerned. So it was definitely unfair because tightly on the issue.
And were they charged with any offenses?
Yes, they were. I can't remember exactly the charges, but yes, they were.
Was it libel against the president?
Libel against the yes.
What's your answer? Could you say again?
It was libel against the president.
And did they remain in detention after the charge, or what happened to them?
No, they were released on bail. I can't remember exactly. I think it was $10,000 bail. Based on bail.
Okay. And what happened to the charges ultimately?
The charges were dropped.
Do you know how that decision was taken?
I don't know. I mean, what I believe, since it's libel, and so the president probably doesn't want to pursue it.
In your statement, you suggested that surprisingly, 1 month after the charges were preferred against them, the three journalists were informed on Monday, 24th January 2000, that President Jammeh has decided to drop the libel charges against them. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So in your statement, you seemed convinced that it was President Jammeh's decision to drop the charges or to have them dropped.
That's correct.
But did the so-called harassment against the independents stop after the arrest of the managing editor and editor-in-chief this time around in December of 1999? Kindly tell us what happened after
that? I remember shortly after, because we were at St. Matthew Road in Bakau. I remember shortly after I moved to Karaba Avenue. I think it was 1 Karaba Avenue. The immigration officials, visited the people. I was in the office that day, and they walked in, trying to question the nationality of the papers, editors. That is Baba Galejalo and Alaji Yorojalo.
What was the suggestion? What were they being questioned about?
They were questioning them about their nationality. They believe they're not Gambian.
I know you find it funny, and obviously Baba is light-skinned, but to suggest that he's not Gambian is something else. And so how did you at the Independent receive that information at the time?
I mean, it was just another strategy of harassing them. I mean, obviously, we all know Baba and Yoro are Gambians. I mean, like, they were born, their fathers were born in the Gambia,
do you know how they managed to get out of that situation?
Repeat that?
Do you know how Baba and Alaji Yoro were able to get out of that situation?
Well, they had to produce their identification, national identity.
So they had to produce papers to prove their nationality?
Yes.
And this event happened, do you recall the date?
It's sometime in 2000.
Early, mid, or late 2000?
It was mid. I think it was in June.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, sometime in June 2000.
Okay, thank you very much. But soon after that, did anything else happen to the paper? Soon after the visit demanding proof of the citizenship of Baba and Alaji Yoro, did anything else happen to the paper?
Yes, I mean, shortly after that, shortly after this, the first anniversary, I think it was in July. The NIA, well, people supposedly from the office of the president, we all know where the NIA is, visited the paper and then arrested Baba Galejalo and Alaji Mbai.
Who is this Alaji Mbai you're referring to?
Alaji Mbai was a reporter with the Independent.
And what happened after they were arrested?
Were taken to the serious crime unit. So the police did that arrest, not the NIA. Sorry, let me verify that. Let me correct that. So the police did that arrest, not the NIA.
Okay, so they were taken to the serious crimes unit, where in Banjul or somewhere else?
In Banjul.
Do you know why they were arrested this time around?
I remember paper carried a story about a reported hunger strike at Mile 2 prisons. So and then also we carried an editorial. I think if I can fully remember, on then Interior Minister Usman Baji. So we believe that the arrest was linked to either these two or one of the two.
Do you know what they were informed about at the time of arrest?
Uh, I don't recall now. I mean, yeah, this is a long time ago.
But do you know whether they were charged with any offenses?
I know they were bailed for like 25,000. No, they were not charged. No.
But what was their crime? Just simply publishing an article that there are allegations of hunger strike at Mile 2 prison? That was the crime?
Well, supposedly that's what they said.
So in a sense, if the regime is not happy about a particular publication, they would arrest the newspaper, the editors of the newspaper. Was that the situation?
Yes, that happened. That was the situation that eventually happened so many times.
Did these arrests, were these arrests limited to editors and managers of the newspapers, or did it, and the reporters, or did it extend to other workers of the newspapers?
Yeah, it did. It did. It did extend to reporters and freelance reporters.
Can you give us an example, please?
There was this freelance reporter. I can't remember Mo. Saliu Mbo, I think
Yes,
that's the
please.
name. Saliu Mbo.
Tell us about him.
Yes, Saliu
What
Mbo was
happened?
he was a freelance reporter actually. He was harassed. He was visited by the police, at his house, and then he was.
Do you know
yeah.
at what time the police visited his house?
Well, it was. I can't remember the exact time, but it was the wee hours. Like I think 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. It was early in the morning.
Was
When
this
everybody
normal?
was sleeping.
Was this normal?
No, I mean it's not. It's not normal. Absolutely not.
And how was that perceived by Mr. Mbow and members of his family?
I mean, that's scary. 2 o'clock in the morning for people to knock on your doors, police officers to knock on your doors. Obviously, the whole family will be scared.
And where was this gentleman, Saliumbo, living at the time?
It was Latrikunda Sabiji. I think that's what Latrikunda Sabiji is towards Birkama, right?
Yes. But what did they
Latrikunda
do?
Sabiji.
What did the police do when they visited Mr. Mbow's house?
Well, they haven't told him what they were looking for. They just ran shot, everywhere. supportive of something, but said what they were doing.
So in effect, in a sense, you're saying that they searched his residence, correct?
Yes.
Do you know whether they produced a search warrant? They showed him a search warrant before they carried out the search?
Absolutely not.
How do you know that?
I mean, the reporter was our reporter. He came, he reported back. I mean, if he was issued a, we will either see a copy or he will tell us verbally.
So in a sense, you're saying that the police visited this person's house at 2 a.m., that's an ungodly hour, and also searched his premises without even producing a search warrant. That's your testimony,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
After this, well, yeah, how was this viewed by the management of the Independent? What happened to Mr. Mbow? How was this viewed?
Well, I mean, not just the management, but the staff, or, see it as, just another harassment, trying to, since he's a freelance reporter, maybe trying to like this, freelance report stories for the paper.
At this point in the life of the Independent, what was its relationship with, say, government ministers, especially those that were involved in communication?
Well, I will not say it was bad, but it wasn't good at all, actually, to be honest with you. Because I remember, um, Sajo, I think he
Who
was
is
the
this
government
Saja Jalo
spokesperson.
you're
I can't
talking about?
remember.
Who is this
He was
Saja Jalo you're talking about?
he was the he was a minister of youth and sports, and he was also the chairman of the government. They call it a government spokesperson committee, whatever that means.
Mm-hmm. And then what
But
happened? Mm-hmm.
at a it was at a press conference that he single-handedly, I mean, he singled Independent out, and then accusing them of permanently, in articles critical to the government.
So you're saying
And
that he attacked the Independents for what he termed
yes, he
as
said,
permanently featuring articles that are critical of the government.
yes. Actually, as a matter of fact, he said we only chase after negative story. That's if I'm right, that's how he put it.
And was that criticism fair?
Absolutely not. I mean,
How
independent,
was it viewed by the
just
staff and
independent.
management of the Independent? How was it viewed by them?
It was just another harassment from government officials.
And you think that the comment was unfair? It amounted to harassment?
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
after that, did anything happen to the journalists who work for the Independent?
Yes, I remember sometime around that, in shortly after Jalo did that, I think there was a by-elections. I remember when the MP for Central Badibu and Kiang, I think West or something like that. They died in the car accident. So there was a by-election campaign. Alkinki say Alkinki Sanyang was covering the not Kiang West, sorry, Kiang East. Kiang East. Say Alkinki represented the paper to cover the by-election campaigns, and Lamin Diba was in Central Badibu. So Alkinki was both were attacked actually, by the APRC.
And do you know why they were attacked?
Well, I mean, our guests was that they're from the Independent, and Independent was considered, critical to the government, and opposition paper for that matter. So that's our belief.
Do you know what, if anything, happened to them when they were attacked?
Can you repeat that?
Do you
Can you
know?
repeat that?
Do you know if anything happened to them when they were attacked?
No, actually not. I mean, they're striking. Well,
Were they injured?
not physically. Not that I can remember. No.
Were they assaulted in any way?
Repeat that.
Were they assaulted in any way?
I can't fully remember, but
But what do you understand
the
word attack to mean in this context? What was done to them during this period?
I mean, yes. I mean, you can't assault somebody without beating the person. So yeah, they were assaulted.
Your testimony is that they were assaulted. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Do you know whether they suffered any injuries?
Not that I can remember.
How about their equipment? Did anything happen to their equipment?
To be honest with you, I can't remember. Yeah.
I know this is a long time ago. This incident happened in March 2001, correct?
Yes, it's a long time.
Soon after that, there was another incident involving an independent journalist at the military barracks. Do you recall that?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell us about it?
It was Omar Ba, actually. Omar Ba was our court reporter. He was assigned to cover the court martial proceedings in Yunumba, and then where he was attacked, brutally assaulted, actually, by one Jallo, one Fulo Jallo, Lance Corporal Fulo Jallo.
And what happened during that attack?
I mean, he was assaulted. He I think actually physically. I think his notebook and recorders were seized, and then him. Yeah.
Now, in your statement, you said that the Independence Court reporter Omar Ba, assigned to cover ongoing court-martial proceedings of Lieutenant Landing Sane at the Yunum Barracks, was severely beaten by a group of soldiers at the barracks on Thursday, 15 July 2001. Mr. Ba was brutally assaulted and subjected to torture by some soldiers allegedly led by one Lance Corporal Fulo Jallo.
Fulo Jallo, yes.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
So in a sense, you were saying he was assaulted by a group of soldiers, correct?
Yes.
So it was not
On the
just Lance Corporal
not
Fulo
just
Jallow,
one.
not just one person, but several other people, right?
Yes.
You said he
Yes.
was also tortured. Could you explain what this torture entailed, if you know?
Well, after he was attacked, he was detained for several hours. So during that process, he reported to us that he was, I mean, I don't know like what kind of torture was made on him, but he reported back to us that torture.
Okay. That same year, 2001, did anything else happen to any of your other reporters?
Um,
Do you know a person called Alaji Mbai? I know you mentioned him before.
yes, Alaji Mbai. Alaji
Do,
Mbai was arrested. Yes, Alaji arrested.
do
I
you
think it was
recall
in
when it occurred?
July. I think it was
July
in
of
July.
which year?
Yes,
July of which year?
July of 2001.
And can you tell us about the circumstances of that arrest?
Um, so I can't fully remember, but I think it was a story into Job. Job was then the uh, majority leader of the National Assembly. So I can't fully remember the story, but I know it's a story related to Baba Job.
Let me just jog your memory a bit. In your statement, you
Okay.
indicated that on 18 July 2001, Bai was invited for questioning regarding a story published in The Independent on May 9, July 2001, in which an ex-APRC militant vowed to expose the majority leader at the National Assembly, Baba Job, in an international court.
Yes, that's correct.
So the issue was about the activities of the majority leader, Mr. Baba Job, which were to be exposed
Yes.
in an international court.
Yes.
And can you tell us where the arrest was conducted?
Bai was well, that was he was invited for in he was invited for questioning at NIA at that time.
Okay, and
So
then
he
what happened?
wasn't picked up. He was invited.
Okay. Your statement suggested that he was arrested from his house in Bakote on Friday, 10th August 2001 by the NIA and held incommunicado for 3 days.
So I think that's a different arrest.
Well,
I think
you
that's a
tell,
different arrest.
explain the circumstances. Was it just this one arrest, or in regards to the publication about Baba Job, he was merely invited for questioning and released?
I mean, I'm not 100 clearly sure. I mean, I know it's relation to Baba Joe, but I know Ian Bai was arrested like several times. I might have like kind of uh, wouldn't probably know the exact reason why the August arrest was,
Okay.
but I know the arrest
During
of
this
Baba Joe, he
particular
was invited.
during this particular period, uh, do you know whether whether he was arrested with regards to another issue, another publication that he made during this same period?
Yes, he was because he was also writing for um, West Africa Magazine, I think is the name. Yeah, he was arrested, because he published a story on.
And this second arrest, how how long did it take between these two arrests? Was it a very short period or was it a very long period apart?
Like, I mean, at the Independent, we used to describe 2001 as year because, like, he was literally subsequent arrest. His arrests were kind of like, you know, so close to each other. In July, August, I think sometime in November too. So, uh, yeah, that was his year actually.
According to your statement, this second order arrest occurred in November when he was arrested with regards to the publication in the West Africa magazine.
Magazine. Yes.
According to your statement, this arrest was in November. And the arrest with regards to the Baba
Yes.
Job issue was in August, was in July rather.
Yes. The Baba Job arrest was in July. He was also arrested. I can't remember exactly why he was arrested at his house, and then he spent, I think, because he was arrested I think on a Thursday and was released on a Monday, 3 days in detention at the NIA. So that is different from the November arrest too.
Okay. All right. So tell us about the November arrest. Did anything happen to him during that arrest?
So the November arrest, that was the publication that a story that he filed for West Africa magazine, and he was detained for a week. For a week.
Did anything happen to him during that detention?
He was tortured, of course. I remember he was. I think they used electric on him. On him, yes.
And how do you know that?
I mean, when he came out, you can visibly see that you know tortured, and then he reported for us that what they did to him.
And how was that viewed by other staff members of the Independent?
Well, we knew right there that the regime is slowly going to an extreme end. They arrest the change for a few days with no torture. Now they started torturing, so they slowly in their way on harassment and of independence.
Well, it looks like 2001 was a very difficult year for the Independent. How about 2002? Was it any different?
No, no.
Can you tell us about what happened to the paper and its staff during that year, 2002?
2002 was a little bit peaceful. I think we had like a couple of arrests, probably 2 or 3, not more than 2. But the one I can remember, I think, was Pa Usman Dabo.
Can you tell us what happened to him?
Reporter.
What happened to him?
Pa Usman was arrested. Pa Usman was arrested alongside Alaji Yorojalo for a story that the paper published about the vice president, Aissatou Sedi, to have remarried to one Alpha Khan. I can't remember the name exactly, but to have remarried.
Was that publication true? As far as you know?
Well, as far as I know, No. I mean, I cannot
So it was
definitely
fake
verify it.
news. It was fake news.
In Donald Trump's voice, yes.
Well, in Jammeh's Gambia, if you make an untrue allegation about Jammeh getting married or any of his people getting married, you get arrested. The first one was about the Sintet lady, correct?
Right.
And the second one was about the
Right.
vice president. Okay. So who were arrested on this occasion? You mentioned Pa Usman Dabo. Was anybody else arrested?
Alaji Yoro Jallo.
And what happened to them during this arrest?
They were they were arrested on I can't remember exactly,
May I
but I
jog
know
your
it was in
memory?
August.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Okay. 3rd August, according to your statement. Do you recall now?
Yeah, but Pauch, yes, 3rd August, yes. Because the publication, I think, was on the 2nd.
And what
Yes.
happened to them subsequent to the arrest?
So they were detained. You know, Pausman was detained. Yoro was released, I think, but Pausman was detained until the 2-3 days later.
Were they prosecuted?
No.
But nonetheless, you acknowledge that the information contained in the paper was false.
Yes.
And in your view, is that a basis for arrest or it is not a basis for arrest?
Well, I fully remember that story. You know, I was a full. I remember Pausman contacting like almost everybody, like we always do, to verify the information that he got, but you know, to no avail. So the government could have just come out and then cleared the air that happened, or they could have spoken to him. The headline probably would have changed.
Now let's talk about the conduct of the publisher, of the author of the article, and the editors. The information you received, did it confirm the story or it didn't?
It didn't.
And regardless, you went ahead to publish.
Yes.
And would you say that is reckless, or would you say that was good journalism?
Well, at the time, you know, I would say it was good journalism because we were trying to verify the story. But now that I know what I know, you know, it wasn't.
So you would accept it was reckless?
Yes.
Okay. And was that a good basis for an arrest, or it wasn't?
Well, there's no good basis for an arrest, to be honest with you.
So in your book, I mean, a journalist should never
they could have
be arrested.
retracted. No, I mean, if somebody did something wrong, they could have, you know, could be arrested, obviously.
So recklessly
could,
publishing an article that is not true is no basis for an arrest.
It is.
So, in hindsight, you are suggesting that the police acted properly, the NIA for that matter.
Yes.
Okay. So, in your book today, that is no harassment of the newspaper because it was lawful.
I mean, yes.
Okay, so we move on to the next issue. The editors of the newspaper Did they have any problems with regards to threats against them?
Well, it's not only the editors, the entire staff of the paper have threats. I mean, we always receive threats. The editors, yes, they receive threats. It was Yoro, Alaji Jallo, and Abdullah C this time around.
What time was this? Could you tell us? Which year was this?
In 2003, I think. Late 2002, early 2003, I can't.
Can you tell us about these threats, the instances that you can recall?
We always receive telephone calls, obviously. Everybody receives that. From like people that we, some will be like insulting, some will be threatening, like direct threats. It's direct threats. Sometimes you will receive a note addressed to the editors, with those kind of things. But we always brush them aside because we thought it's part of the job.
What were the complaints about?
I mean, first thing first, the Independent was considered the opposition paper, which it was not. And then they said we always report negatively about the government, which I don't agree to. So basically, these are the things.
So, and who would be these people who would call the staff of the Independent and make these threats?
Well, we had received like so many calls of that nature. I think this particular one, I think the callers, refer to himself as Sekou. Sekou, yeah, just Sekou.
Did the caller identify the place where he worked or the interest that he represented?
No, it's just say that the editors should be ready because they prepared to kill all of them.
And who received this call at this point? Who received this particular call?
No, the call reception is who transferred the call. So I think I can't remember it was on a speakerphone.
To whom was this threat made?
Abdullah C was the editor-in-chief then, and Alaji Yoro was still the managing editor. So the threat was Abdullah Yoro.
But did the caller give an indication as to why he wanted these two people dead?
I can't remember fully. This is too a long time. I can't remember that.
In your statement, you indicated that the caller hinted that they have the support of very influential Gambians who, according to him, feel rightly bitter about reports featured by this paper that had cast aspersions on their persons. Do you recall saying that to the investigators?
That's correct.
Is that the reason why they wanted the editors dead?
Well, that's what the caller said. I mean, but eventually, I mean, the main reason is probably they just want to silence them.
And what's the situation with the paper subsequently? Did they stop criticizing the government, as was requested in the complaints, or did they continue scrutinizing the activities of the government?
Yeah, the paper never stopped.
And in 2003, did anything happen to the managing editor, Alaji Yoro Jallo?
Yes. Yes, Yoro was picked up, by the NIA and question about I think there was a football match between the Gambia and Senegal. Can't remember the month, but and then there was a clash between. So the Independent reported that um, a fan of somewhere, killed at Amdalai. So Yoro was arrested.
So in effect, you're saying that Yoro was arrested for reporting that a Gambian fan was killed after the football match between Gambia and Senegal, and the killing occurred in Karang at the border village.
Yes, that was the story.
Was the report factual?
No.
And he was arrested for making a false story.
Yes.
And the story was indeed false.
Yes, no fan was killed. People were injured, but no fan was killed.
And in your book, was that arrest lawful or it wasn't lawful?
That was, I mean, the lawful.
Hello, can you hear me, Mr. Witness?
Yes, yes, it was lawful.
So this one is no harassment, according to your book?
No.
So we proceed on to the next incident that you describe. The Independent, was it at any point in time visited by groups of people who came there to threaten the staff members?
Yeah, I can't remember the date, but I think it was in
Well, you remember a Sunday in June 22nd?
June, yeah, it was in June.
Which year? June of which year?
This was in 2003.
Yes, so tell us about that visit.
That I think it was like 9 or 10 men. They were in uniform.
Uniforms from which service? From which service?
Well, they were camouflage. So I may not know. I think it was National Guard or something like that.
What happened when they came
but
in?
It was a
What happened when they came in?
So I mean, they just came to it threatened the paper. Obviously, it was in relation to a story about on Kanil Yankuba. I can't remember the last name. He was a Kanilai commander, I think.
Would it be Yankuba Baji?
Implicated in Lieutenant Yankuba Baji, yes. He allegedly paid funds, from Jammeh's farm, and he was arrested at dinner. So the paper report on that, and why the office was visited in that ungodly hours.
What time? What time did they arrive?
I think it was early hours. I can't remember exactly.
Would it be after midnight?
Absolutely.
In fact, it was pre-dawn. It was very early in the morning, pre-dawn.
Yeah.
And what was the problem in that publication that they complained about?
Repeat that?
What was the problem in the publication they complained about?
Actually, that's no, I cannot remember. I mean, if you can jog my memory, I can't remember.
According to your statement, you indicated that the publication was about theft by, alleged theft by Commander Lieutenant Yankuba Baji, misappropriation of funds in Kanilai. And
Yes.
it was complained that your publication would jeopardize their investigations. Was that the reason?
Yes.
But on this particular occasion, did you hear anything from one of the NIA directors?
Yes. There's this Drame. Drame. I can't remember the first name.
What was his position?
I think he was the director of operations or something like that. I think.
Would the name Salmina Drame ring a bell?
Yeah, Salmina Drame. You know, he you know, several occasions threatened Euro with you know, if he found the paper wanting like its editorial work.
Could you repeat that, please?
He threatened on several occasions, you know, of imprisonment. Actually, you know, he said he can arrest Yoron if the paper is, you know, found wanting, you know, in each work. Obviously, I mean, if they see anything that they don't want on the paper, that's, in essence, he can arrest Yoron and detain him for, you know, another part of it.
So you are saying that the director of operations of the NIA at the time, Mr. Salmina Drame, threatened Alaji Yoro that he'd be arrested and imprisoned if he made publications that they did not like. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yes.
Was this just one threat or was it frequent?
Well, I mean, Yoro is probably the most journalist arrested in here. So I think, you know, during like on and out from there, he was threatened one way or the other by NIA. So it was one of these occasions that he was Salimina said this to him.
So you're suggesting, yes, Yoro was the journalist who was most arrested during the period he worked in Gambia, and on this particular occasion, yes, Mr. Salmina threatened him with imprisonment. But do you know whether Mr. Salmina's threat was ever carried out?
No, it wasn't.
How about a reporter named Buya Jame? Do you know him?
Yes, Buya was a reporter at the Independent, and he was also, you know, working with Radio 1.
Could you say that again, please?
I said Buya was a reporter with the Independent, and he also doubled as a DJ at Radio 1 FM.
Did anything happen to him?
Yes, I mean, like 2 blocks from the office of the Independent, the Taiwanese embassy, as PIU, Police Intervention Officer station there. So Buya was, I don't know exactly what transpired, but he was asked by those officers there.
Something is missing. There's a bit we did not hear. He was asked by what? Could you repeat what you just said?
No, I said he was assaulted.
assaulted,
by these PI officers.
by the PIU would be Police Intervention Unit, correct?
Yes.
Was he assaulted alone or with somebody else?
He was alone.
Do you know the reason for this assault?
I can't recall.
I have to ask some of these questions because the Commission has a responsibility to award reparations to victims of human rights violations. But also we have to be certain that what happened was actually a human rights violation and not just a person's own assessment of wrongful conduct when it's not in fact wrongful conduct. So we have to be very clear. On this particular occasion, you do not know the reason for the assault on Buya, correct?
No.
How about Pamudu Bojang? Did anything happen to him during this period?
Pamodu, yes, I think he also Pamodu was also a reporter with the Independent. Actually, he was, I would say, a correspondent that Casamans, for the Independent, because he was going back and forth. So he also received death threats. And, I think according to these threats were made in, sense of police or something like that. I can't fully remember exactly. It's a long time.
But as far as you know, he wasn't assaulted, he wasn't arrested.
Yes.
Now let's talk about Fatu Jaumane. Did anything happen to any members of your staff in relation to Fatu Jaumane?
I remember we published an article, Fatu Jau. I still remember the headline, under the microscope. We published that sometime in September, I think, 2003. Result, Abdullah C, the editor-in-chief, was arrested.
But why was he arrested? For publishing an article with the headlines Jame under the microscope?
Yes, I mean the article I cannot fully remember now, but quite critical of Jame and the way he was handling the affairs of the state.
And what happened to Mr. C during that arrest?
C was detained for, I think, 3 days because he was arrested, I think, and he spent the entire weekend there and got released Monday or Tuesday. So, yes.
How about Fatu Jaumane? Did anything happen to her?
No, Fatu was in the then.
Could you say again?
He was in the United States then.
But the government found that article offensive. Is that the position?
Yes.
Did anything eventually happen to Fatu Jaumane?
Fatu was eventually arrested. I can't remember the year though, but I know she was arrested when she visited Zambia. And then she was even charged, if I can remember.
And what was the basis of her arrest when she visited Gambia, as far as you know?
I remember the basis of her arrest with you.
Would you say that her articles that were critical of Jammeh had anything to do with it?
Well, Fatu, who was, I mean, was critical of the regime then. I mean, he wrote several articles that are critical, not only to but you know, in so those articles might have.
You're breaking, Mr. Witness. We haven't heard some of what you just said. Could you repeat your statement, please? Could you repeat your answer?
So I said Fatu Omane wrote several articles that were published by the Independent, and those articles were not only critical of Jammeh and but like government officials. I remember she even categorized one of the officials then as if Gambia was to be called by the Chinese, that would be the first person to speak Chinese. Name names, but he was very critical of Jammeh and his regime.
And that wasn't received with favor by the Jammeh government, was it?
Not at all.
And she was arrested when she visited Gambia.
Yes.
So in a sense, you're suggesting that the government was not receptive to criticism against its leader.
No.
And Mr. C, on this particular occasion, you said he was released after 3 days. Did anything else happen to him during that period that he was arrested? Do you know whether he was tortured?
Unless my memory, I can't.
Do you know whether he was tortured?
It's a long time. I mean, he spent 3 days there, so I put that he was, but I cannot fully recall.
How about Mr. Lamin Jai? Do you know a person called Mr. Lamin Jai?
Yes, Lamin Jai was my colleague at the Independent.
Do you recall on Thursday, 2nd October 2003, what happened to him?
Yes, I remember. I mean, he interviewed then propaganda secretary of no, actually, he was not the propaganda secretary then. He was the leader of I cannot remember the name now, but it's Lamin Wajuara, in which Juara said people should take to the street, because of the this is going to the country.
And
So
Lamin Wajuara, which organization did he lead? Did he lead at the time? I didn't quite get the name you mentioned.
NDAM. It was a national Democratic Action Movement, if I am right. That was his party.
Okay. And what did he say in that interview?
He called on Gambians to take to the street, to protest about the country, the injustices, the corruption. I mean, he has like a land of issues, but these are the very few that I can remember.
Okay. And that article was an interview, right, with Wajuara, and was that published on the Independent? And what happened to him after the publication?
Juara was arrested and charged for, I think, sedition, something like that. He was even sentenced to like 6 months, if I'm right.
How about Lamin Jai, the journalist?
Jai was just questioned, and I remember he used him as a witness too.
Was his questioning viewed as wrong by the Independent?
Yes.
And what was wrong about it?
I mean, he was just a reporter doing his job. You know, they could have just gone for the person that said the things, not the reporter reported it.
But wouldn't the reporter be a witness to what was said?
Well, uh, yeah, but that doesn't mean he should be arrested.
You said he was questioned.
Question, yeah.
So one can be questioned without being arrested, correct?
Well, I mean, in the Gambia, then, like, you know, if they invite you and you don't show up, they come and pick you up. So it's not like you are
So it
voluntarily
was
going.
involuntary. He had to
It
accept. He
wasn't
had to
voluntary.
go. That's your
Yes,
suggestion. And that was a problem for the
yes,
journalists. Okay.
that was a
And
problem.
subsequently, how did that case end up? You said Wajuara was sentenced to 6 months. Did Njai play any role in that trial?
He was used as a witness. He was quite a hostile witness, to be quite honest with you.
Oh, okay. He was hostile to the case of the state. Okay. And
Yeah.
how about Pa Malik Seka? Did anything happen to him after this incident involving Lamin
Um,
Jai?
Pamalik, yeah, Pamalik. Uh,
Call any
I
members
remember
of your
he.
your 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 paper having altercations and problems with councillors, APRC councillors in Banjul.
Yes, I mean Pamalik was harassed. I think he was attending a meeting or whatever.
How
So
was he harassed? Could you explain that?
uh, I think his tape record was smashed. Yes, it was seized from him, and then it was destroyed.
So his property was destroyed, correct?
Yes,
Did
yes.
he go to the police? Did he report the matter to the police?
I
You're
mean the
laughing.
police
It
wouldn't
looks
have
like
anything.
funny. Am I describing utopia? Wouldn't that happen in Gambia during those days? Couldn't individuals
No,
report
I mean
officials for doing something wrong?
absolutely not. I mean because nothing is going to come out of it.
So as a result of that belief, no report was made to the police.
No.
How about the Baba Job issue? Did anything else happen to Alaji Yoro with regards to the Baba Job issue? Or what you call Baba
Yeah,
Gate, for that?
yeah, because Baba Job was he eventually fell apart with Jame, and he was arrested and tried for academic charges. But anyway, we call it like other independent. We ran some articles. I mean, Baba Gate scam. So
Could you repeat that?
you know
How did you
the
call it? Could you repeat that? Could you repeat how?
Baba Gate
Oh, Baba Gate scandal. That's what you said, right?
Baba Gate scandal.
Okay. And what happened as a result of the stories you ran under that caption?
The managing editor received um, um, a death threat sent by people calling themselves boys.
How were they calling themselves? The group that sent the threat letter?
The Green Boys.
And who do you know to be the Green Boys?
Green Boys uh,
we didn't get that. Could you repeat that? Who are the Green Boys?
I said the Green Boys, the Green were the youth of the TRRC. They were
So
led by trained.
the Green Boys were who?
Baba Job
Was the youth wing of the APRC, you said, and they were led by who? Baba Job, you said.
Baba Job, yes.
And what was their problem this time around?
I think they were not happy about the independence constant reporting. Well, not only reporting, but reminding people who Baba Job was. So they were not happy that Baba Job is constantly featured by.
At this particular point in time, were the Green Boys supporting Baba Job, or were they supporting the government, or were they supporting both at this time?
Well, it's obvious the people that sent the letter were supporting Baba Job. I mean, I may not be entire group, but the letter were definitely supporting Baba Job.
At this time, was Baba Job still with the government, or he has fallen apart with the government?
At this time, he has fallen apart with the government.
So the threat was sent by the Green Boys in support of Baba Job?
Yes.
How about Sana Kamara? Did anything happen to him at this point in time?
Yes, Sana. I remember Sana. I think it was the opening of the National Assembly. He went to cover that opening. When the security officers realized where he's from, they barred him from entering.
They barred him from what?
Entering the National Assembly building.
Do you know whether he had all the credentials necessary to gain him entry?
Yes.
Why was he barred from entering?
I mean, because obviously when you go, you identify yourself. So when he identified himself as a reporter from the Independent, they don't let him in.
Why didn't they let him in?
I mean, the Independent never had a good. Actually, I don't even think we attended certain press conferences here and there, but we barely attend. Well, we barely invited for a government function. So, I guess that's why we will consider obviously.
I
believe that I wasn't let in.
We're missing something from your answer. Could you take it again? Why was he not admitted into the premises to cover the event?
So, in all government angles, Independent is an opposition paper, or it was the government. That's the belief that was spread within the government. So, Sana identified himself, the paper, they didn't let him in.
So, in a sense, your theory is that, well, because the Independent was viewed as opposition paper or critical of government, its reporters were not admitted into government functions.
Yes.
That's your position.
Invited.
That's your position. They're not invited, they're not allowed in.
Yes.
And you believe that was unfair?
It was.
Which other papers were allowed into government functions at this time?
I mean, I was not there, but Observer was invited.
So your suggestion is that observer would receive a treatment that was different from the independent. Observer would receive a more favorable treatment.
Absolutely.
Okay. So let's
Absolutely.
proceed. Did anything significant happen to the independent in 2004?
Yes. Sometime sometime in April, the offices of the Independent was attacked. You know, it was fire bombed, and I think the electric socket and part of the doors were damaged.
I missed what you said. You said the electric socket and the doors were what?
Were,
We're still missing that. Could you say again?
uh, no, I said paper to attach to this was the printing press. This was the printing press that um, men with gasoline and guns attacked press and then burned it down.
So the printing press was burnt down. That's what you're suggesting.
The printing press, yes.
Do you know who burnt it down?
Well, the fact that a gun was left us, so we believe that must be the government.
Do you know whether any attackers were identified?
Yes, I remember the National Assembly member Ahmad Ba named a few people, at the National Assembly of being responsible for the arson attack, and one of them I fully remember was Sanamanjang.
You mean Sanamanjang? Do you know which force
Sanamanjang.
Sanamanjang belongs to?
He was in the state guard. I think state guard.
Do you know the basis for Sanamanjang being accused?
Well, they said he suffered like some burns from the arson attack.
Do you know for certain whether the government investigated this arson attack on the paper?
Well, the police came. The pistol actually was surrendered to them. Supposedly, they opened an investigation. Obviously, it didn't go anywhere. And then after that, we got information that the NIA has taken over the investigation, but nothing came out of it.
Do you know whether the management of the paper were being updated as to the developments in the investigations, if any?
Not that I know of.
As far as you're concerned, was there ever an investigation?
No.
Why do you say that?
I mean, because the fact that the people that suffered the attack weren't updated, so I mean, obviously nothing happened.
Was it just one arson attack on the paper, or was there a subsequent one?
There was a subsequent one.
Can you tell us about that?
That is, I cannot remember the date, but the paper's offices was attacked too.
Yes. Can you tell us about that one?
That one, like they came at night, and then also with gasoline. Obviously, they burned the they couldn't get into the office, so they burnt the electric socket and part of the door. But before much damage was done, the neighbors were aware of it, and then they left.
And did the independents suffer any further attacks of that nature, arson?
No, it was only two arsons, the printing press and the offices, that I can remember.
And that did not stop the independent from operating, did it?
I mean, briefly, but they came back.
At a point, did the independents share the same printing facility with the Observer?
Well, I was not part of the printing department, so I don't know. I can't remember.
Did there come a time when the Observer had to inform the independent that they would not be sharing the same printing facilities anymore?
Yes, yes, you're right. Yes, yes.
And how did you receive that decision? How was it viewed by staff of the independent?
I mean, we knew this was from the like personnel themselves. Because, um,
we missed most of what you've said in your answer. You said we knew,
no,
and
I
then
said
the rest we lost.
we knew that order didn't just come from the personnel, like the people working directly at the Observer. This was order from above.
So help us to understand this
Probably.
situation. Is it the case that after the burning of the equipment of the independent, they started printing with the Observer, and now an order was made that they can no longer print with the Observer? Was that the case?
Yes.
So by making that order, it means the independent is again being hampered from being able to produce its paper. Is that the case?
Yes. Yes.
And the reason that was given by the Observer, was it genuine that they were overhauling their machines, or was it just a simple excuse to get rid of the independent?
I mean, it was just a simple excuse. It was, a genuine reason. But they only printers, so they can say whatever they want.
Mr. Witness, we have run over the time by 6 minutes, so I want us to go through what we have left very quickly, and I hope we should be able to finish in about 10 minutes at the most. With your indulgence, Mr. Chair, I'll proceed. Pamodu Seka, at this time in 2005, did anything happen to him while he was working for the independent in Jara Soma?
Yes. I remember it was in sometime in October. So Pamodu was somebody who always the provinces, for storing them to the independent. So in one of these, occasions, he was detained at Jarasoma by the immigration office.
And for how long was he detained?
By the immigration officers at Jarasoma.
For how long was he detained?
He had a couple of hours, 3 to 4, I think, if I'm right.
So he was detained very briefly?
Yes.
And then subsequently released, correct?
Yes, yes.
And is there a problem with that as far as the journalists are concerned?
I mean, because, because he hasn't done anything wrong.
Was he arrested in connection with his work or in connection with something else?
Well, I'm, I'm not, I'm not sure the reason for his arrest, but he was,
So it's
you know,
not clear to you the reason for his arrest.
no.
All you know is that he was a journalist and he was arrested and detained for a few hours. That's all you know, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Let's
yes.
move on to Mr. Musa Sedikan. Um, did he have any problems in relation to his activities outside Gambia, as far as you know?
Yes, Musa attended, I think it was an editors forum in South Africa, and then he had a chance of meeting then South African President Thabo Mbeki. Had um, a conversation in Mbeki about the hyper, you know, urging
About
Mbeki
who?
to
About
kind of like
who?
put pressure, former South African President Thabo. So he urged Mbeki to put some pressure on the government of Yahya Jammeh,
To do what?
to investigate the death of. And then
The death of
he
who?
also
The death of who?
Data Hydra, the Point newspaper editor, then Point newspaper editor, and he also made mention the king of the West African nationalist, Thabo Mbeki. So when he came to the interview to, if I'm right, and then he was arrested because of that.
Was he the only person arrested on this occasion?
Yes, yes.
How about the staff? Were they arrested with him?
No, this was this that the arrest of Musa in relation to what I just said was in October.
I am talking about Mahdi.
To,
Sorry, you're right.
oh, Madi,
Uh, the editor-in-chief, Musa Sedikan, uh, during his arrest, was he the only person arrested or was he arrested together with others?
so we're talking of two arrests. The one in October was just Musa. The incident that he was arrested with other staff, including Madi's sister, was in March.
That was in March 2006. And his first arrest, as far as you're concerned, was the one in relation to what he said to Thabo Mbeki about the investigations
Yes,
needed for the Data Hydra case and the killing of the Ghanaians. That occurred in October 2005, correct?
yes,
But he was
yes,
subsequently released with regards to that particular arrest, correct?
yes.
He was not charged with any offense, was he?
No,
And he was again arrested in 2006,
yes,
together with his staff, including your humble self and Mr. Mahdi Cisse, correct?
yes.
But what was this arrest about?
So we shortly in when the government announced the abortive coup of March 6, we story. Actually, I authored that story with Lamin Fati, the assistant editor. So I, removed my byline there because Fati was a freelance reporter, so he was paid based on the stories that he reported. So it was only Fati's name who was featured, but I authored that story with Fati. So we erroneously reported that Samba Ba The then, I think it was Interior Minister was arrested. You know, I mean, that wasn't the case. A Sambaba was arrested, but it wasn't the Minister of Interior. So, you know, when we realized our mistake, we rejoined her, which was okay with Sambaba. Obviously, he was the victim here. He wasn't happy with that, so they arrested everybody.
You mean that the victim was happy with the rejoinder and that was fine for him, but the government wasn't happy with the article
Yes.
and decided to arrest everyone? That's your
Yes.
position, right? And what happened
Yes.
afterwards?
So Musa was arrested late at night because I was home when his wife called me to tell me that Musa was picked up from his house. And then, I immediately called Demba Ali Jao, to inform about Musa's arrest. Next day, because I was Musa's assistant, take charge of the paper because I knew he was arrested. Upon, we were like some kind of like ambush by the paramilitary officers, and they put us in a pickup truck and then taking us to the paramilitary headquarters.
And for how long were you
So
detained there? Proceed, please.
Upon arrival at the paramilitary headquarters, we met the deceased staff there. So we were briefly questioned. I mean, I think we spent like at least 2 hours, nothing less. We were all released except for Madi, who was eventually transported to Banjul.
Did anything else happen to him?
Yes, Madi and Musa were detained, at the police headquarters. They were there for for almost 3 days, and then they were eventually to the NIA.
Was any one of them prosecuted?
They were tortured at the NIA, but they were never prosecuted.
How do you know they were tortured?
I mean, first of all, I have to apologize to the family, for not telling them the truth at the time, but even when they were in detention, I knew what they do, but I could not just tell the family, what their fate were. But, when they came out, the obvious was that they were tortured. And there were visible marks on their body that shows that they were tortured.
So, did they tell you they were tortured?
Yes.
But that aside, you also saw visible marks of lacerations or injuries on their bodies?
Yes. Actually, Musa's hand was broken twice.
So, as a result of that, you concluded that they were tortured?
Yes.
Okay. And did you continue to work for the Independent after this event?
No, the Independent never opened since that day. It was shut down.
And then what did you do?
Yeah, because we continue to try to get Madi and Musa. I was in charge then, but I had Namori Trawale Laminyai, supporting me, and then our driver Ansu. GPU was handicapped at the time because Madi was the president, the vice. Pandiri Mbai was the secretary, so they were the president and the vice were in detention. Pandiri was in the U.S. It was only Omar Ba, who was the assistant secretary, who was also helping us to get these people released, but we couldn't do anything actually.
And were they prosecuted?
No, they were not.
So ultimately they were released. After how long?
They were released after 22 days
22 days in detention.
in
So
detention, yes.
what did you do for a living after that?
Well, I wasn't doing anything, to be honest with you.
In June 2006, did
Until,
you join any other printing press? Any other printing house?
yes, I there's this new publication that that came up. It's the Daily Express, I think. I can't remember the name fully. Daily Express, I think. And then they approached me to edit the paper for them. We only had we only did one publication, to be quite honest, and then that publication was coincided with the opening of the AU summit. So because it's our maiden publication, so we gave it out free of charge. We didn't sell it. On that publication, we reproduced a press release by the human rights organization on the continent, because they were bad, from having a forum, I think, if I can remember, in the Gambia. So they wrote a very powerful press release describing Gambia as the hotspots of.
I think we are having a relay
of
the statements you're making. Could you stop a moment and repeat what you just said?
So what I was saying is that
I think we're having a technical problem. Hello?
Hello, yeah.
The technicians at the van, could you kindly help us, please? We're having a problem. We having a relay of what's being said by about a few seconds. Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good. So let's start again. You said after the maiden issue of the Daily Express.
Yes. So we reproduced a press release by the Network of African Freedom of Expression.
Mr. Chair, I think we're having a problem. What's being said is coming back after about 3 seconds, and so it's not like things are happening. Well, they are happening contemporaneously, but they are coming back. So we have to stop to get them to sort this problem out. I have only about 2 issues really to clear with this witness. Maybe perhaps this is one occasion wherein we just take the statement of the witness and leave it at that, because the witness has an appointment he has to attend to. We are almost at the tail end of things, and we should be able to accept what is contained in his statement and leave it at that. But I'm in your hands, and then we take it from there.
Thank you, Counsel. That's a very sensible suggestion, and we wouldn't want to keep the witness here. Thank you very much indeed, and my apologies that you had to get up very early in the morning to prepare for this testimony. But you did wonders, and wish you all the best with your appointment and your statement. If you can include some concluding remarks in your statement to the Council, that would be very helpful indeed. But again, thank you so much, and my apologies about the technical problems, as well as making you get up very early in the morning. We will come back in 1 hour's time. That's about 3:30. We resume.
Mr. Witness, did you hear what the chairman just said?
Yes, I did.
He heard me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Witness.
Thank you very much indeed. And again, Mr. Makalo, wish you all the best. Meeting is adjourned. We come back at 3:30.